Alright, so there's a lot I could say at the start of this review, but just watch this. This is The Pathless, published by Annapurna Interactive, who've also put out What Remains of Edith Finch, Florence, Ashen, and The Outer Wilds. It's developed by Giant Squid, the team that made Abzu. Its soundtrack is from Austin Wintory, the guy who composed the soundtrack for Journey. The Pathless is that perfect intersection of publisher, developer, and composer that you rarely chance upon, one that produces something utterly wonderful. I absolutely loved this game. The Pathless follows in the tradition of scenic exploratory games like Journey and Abzu, only with a far stronger focus on puzzle solving and boss encounters. The land has been cursed, its avatars enslaved to a maleficent will, and only you can restore the balance. You are the hunter, a lithe acrobat who wields little more than a bow. Your first moments with your character are unique in their pace because you're limited to walking speed. You haven't yet figured out how to move faster. In the distance though, you'll lock eyes on a small talisman, and shooting it fills your stamina bar. With this new resource, your gait widens and your speed increases. Soon you'll figure out that you can maintain and even increase this momentum by shooting talismans on the fly, and in that moment, the flow state of the game is gifted to you. Coming to grips with movement in The Pathless felt like the moment I learned to bullet jump in Warframe, or how to chain together Mario's different movement abilities in Mario 64. It's the sort of traversal that creates connective tissue across an entire game's content. I worry less about traveling between destinations when the moment-to-moment experience of traveling feels this good. Sometimes I would just go anywhere, like I'd aim to go somewhere on the map, but I just get so carried away with the joy of running and jumping and sliding and shooting that I would just go with it, like getting on a bus but not knowing where it was going to take me. I'd end up so far from where I'd planned to go, but I didn't care because I'd had so much fun in those brief few moments of aimless redirection. This is important because of the nature of the Pathless' world. These are wide open landscapes with little to see between its various landmarks. Imagine each of its 4 zones are a sort of coliseum, the boundaries set by these 3 Orthanc-looking towers. Toward the periphery of each zone, where the seats would be, are various ruins that offer environmental puzzles that give you relics to power those great towers. These puzzles are nothing remarkable. They typically involve using your bow to light torches, bounce arrows off mirrors, or moving weighted objects onto switches to open gates. You have done these puzzles hundreds of times before in different games, and here they serve mostly as a pacing mechanism, bringing the game to a contemplative standstill distinct from the perpetual motion you experience elsewhere. The Pathless is not content to let you solve puzzles at your own pace though. There is a sword of Damocles perpetually suspended over your head in the form of the boss enemy, who roams the same world you're exploring and solving puzzles in. Their presence is denoted by a violent red storm that has all the fire and fury of a mushroom cloud, minus the mushroom. Its massive circumference dominates the landscape, stationary when you're distant and dissipating into nothingness when its search is unsuccessful. Get too close though, and this happens. In here, you're trapped with the boss as they search for you. Like a T-Rex, their vision is based on movement, and you need to carefully make your way back to your companion without being spotted. These are incredibly tense moments owing to the pathing of the enemy, who always spawns and moves at angles that put you just a breath away from discovery. These encounters are rather unchanging between region and boss enemy, and certainly by the 6th or 7th time you've done them, you've had your fill of them. I think the point of them though isn't so much to provide a gameplay loop that you'd want to return to, but rather to provide one you'd want to avoid. The omnipresent threat of the storm while you're exploring and puzzle solving is a sort of counterbalance to the zen-like feeling you're often experiencing, mirroring the tension that sits at the core of the game's identity. This is meant to be neither always relaxing or always stressful. It's meant to ebb and flow. One moment tense subterfuge, the next considered puzzle solving, the next unbounded freedom and speed. Where the Pathless truly surprised me was in its ability to so organically create these stunning cinematic moments. For example, the storms can be outrun. You'll be working away on some puzzle when the soundscape begins to shift and flecks of red dot the air, and in that moment a flight or fight response kicks in. You drop what you're doing and you just run in any direction you can, scanning for any talisman to propel you forward. This pursuit radically transformed the traversal experience, which before felt like one of joyful expression and now feels like this sort of grasping, clawing, desperate fight for survival, where one mistimed bow shot would be the difference between escaping the maw and succumbing to it. It reminded me of those scenes in Dante's Peak or Twister where Mother Nature itself had turned against people and they managed to escape in little more than rickety cars and trucks. Sometimes though, there is no escape. Sometimes you're just nestled into a little cul-de-sac solving some puzzle when all of a sudden you hear the storm coming and you look left and you look right and then you look up and you're like, fuck. Boss encounters as well are just stunning, both for their spectacle as well as their construction. The first phase is always the chase, when the towers have sufficiently weakened the target such that they become the hunted. Here the landscape is expanded and unobstructed, allowing you to pursue your prey with more fluidity than you'd otherwise experience. Of note is the camera work here, which so effortlessly manages to frame the action in a way that looks and feels exciting. Once the creature has taken enough damage, you'll transition into a smaller arena, where new mechanics and shifts in perspective invoke everything from 2D side-scroller to 3D bullet hell. No two of these phases are the same, and they are honestly among some of the best boss encounters I've experienced this year. I'd be remiss if this review didn't call out the extraordinary work of the composer Austin Wintory, who once again delivers a true tour de force that elevates every moment. From your dreamy moments of rudderless exploration to your tense hiding in thickets to your triumphant felling of foes, Wintory's soundtrack is our guide, expertly shepherding our emotions to just the right place as we take it all in. Far more tribal, spiritual, and ominous than anything we heard in Journey, the Pathless' soundtrack demonstrates a broader range of music to match the broader range of the game. It won't hit with quite the same impact that the Journey soundtrack does, because each moment in Journey happened in sequence, which meant that it could be precisely scored. Here the soundtrack is far more flexible to support your wandering, but its ambient fill is no less expert in its ability to move you. To be moved is really the goal of the Pathless, but not in the same way that Journey achieved that. Journey sought to instill a melancholic wonderment, sad to take in the beauty of a decayed world, but inspired by the determination of the hero to push through it. Shadow of the Colossus did the same thing. The Pathless draws deeply from both of these games, but it charts its own course. It's strewn with ancient ruins to be explored, but its path is yours to navigate as you see fit. It's populated by majestic behemoths that you must bring low, but your overcoming them is framed far more heroically. The moral ambiguity that coloured Shadow of the Colossus is absent in this world, where good and evil certainly exist and you are on the right side of that equation. The Pathless is inspired by other games, but it's its own experience that finds its own way to move you. You'll feel the elation that comes from just moving through this world, running for the sheer thrill of it. Your breath will shorten and sharpen as you hide in plain sight. You'll feel so imbued with power and strength and confidence as you sail towards a boss, relishing how the tables have turned. And the ending is just, the ending is just amazing. The Pathless is available on PS4, PS5, and the Epic Games Store. It's $39 USD. If you liked Journey, or Abzu, or Shadow of the Colossus, or Ori, or Gris, you simply must play the Pathless. If you liked those other games, there is just no chance that you will not enjoy this. I absolutely adored it, and I feel so lucky that I got to experience its best moments. Thanks for watching my video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, give it a thumbs down so I know to do better for next time. If you enjoyed yourself, consider subscribing, and if you really enjoyed yourself, maybe consider hitting that notification bell so you never miss a video. You can see my patrons here on the left. They're awesome. They're amazing. If you want to join them, check out my Patreon page. Thank you again. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.